Hey guys, might have noticed a little uptick in me talking about codependent therapy and codependent models in mental health, and I figured why not talk about it? Will say that this has come up through Instagram with a couple of stories and shares that I've made through my stories, as well as I think 2 of my book reviews have covered topics regarding codependent theory or codependent therapy models for the individual and the individual that has a intimate partner who loves them. And there seems to be a little bit of feedback I'm receiving. Things like, you should be focused on depending on yourself, or that doesn't sound right, or that sounds really unhealthy. But I think the thing that made me want to record a conversation about my view and how I use codependent therapy in my life is the question of what exactly is codependent therapy? Codependent therapy is targeted at creating a independence by accepting a dependence on others. It's that awareness of being able to identify that you cannot go about things on your own, and there are just inevitable sectors in life where you are going to look at other people who are important and trusted by you and their cues on how you proceed and navigate through life. And you will be able to make those independent choices more freely on your own based on that social cue that you're gathering from the people around you. So it's a model to help you work independently within a team towards the same goal. And for me, that is functional stability in mental health. So I think of 2 examples that come to mind about areas that I partake in a social capacity that I can maybe relate this idea to. And it's the first one being you're on a sports team, right? So you as an athlete are trying to perform your best. You're performing your best for the team that you are actively playing your sport on. I'm going to use the example of baseball. So you go up and you run around the bases and you only get to third. And now you are dependent on the person coming up to bat to be able to swing and hit something where you can run on and bring a score home, which benefits the collective unit as the team. And whether that hitter then advances around the bases, it doesn't mean that you weren't able to do so independently of your own. You played off each other in this dependence model that helped you perform independently better collectively. Another example that I think about is, as a musician, I know that I can only play one instrument at a time. I sit in an orchestra and solos may come, or I'm playing to harmonize and support the other soloist in the piece that we are performing for an audience. And you are working within that artistic team to put forth a full body of musical art that somebody has created. You are working with 60 other people who are performing their best to follow this artistic guideline to audibly present the best product for an audience to take in and enjoy. And so in both of these examples, you are doing something independently that helps to address the needs of both yourself and what you're fighting for, but also concurrently with those around you. If you step back from these micro examples into maybe a macro application of what I'm specifically talking about in personal growth, you can see that codependency model or codependency therapy helps to intersect and meet the basic human needs that we all instinctually have. And so with that being said, I will say that, as social creatures, there's a herd of, well, maybe not a herd of people, a tribe of people, a crowd of people. What is a group of people called? A crowd is illegal right now. I don't know. A bunch of people help form and create each other, if that makes sense. And I think it's important to note that we are not born fully formed. We develop and navigate through these different stages of development, and we are shaped by the people that we are surrounded by as we are molded and grow through them. Which sort of brings me to one of the, I think, 3 topics. I'm not quite sure how many. There's 3 topics I know I definitely want to talk about how codependency intersects with other applications of human need. The first one comes to mind of the dependency paradox, which essentially talks about how the stronger we link to another person, the stronger we become individually as our own. And to find true autonomy with ourselves, we need to find fulfillment from the social acceptance of our intimate partners. Right, so this instinctual need to be understood and accepted by a partner is one of those stepping stones to help you advance forward in personal growth and mental stability in a lot of ways. When you feel like that limpy gazelle in a herd, you are constantly and chronically stressed of what is going to prey upon you because you already know that you are more vulnerable than the people who are around you. But the more people who signal that I essentially have your back, or I know what you're going through, or yes, this sucks, how can we fix this so you're not chronically worried about this aspect of what or who you are that holds you back from advancing or being able to focus on repairing and healing in the time that you need is essentially very important to the process. So the dependency paradox really just outlines that the more we accept the fact that we are dependent on the cues and the intimate partner or partners that we have around us, the byproduct is a foundation of independence of ourselves. So as I dig into this aspect of building up on the foundation of independence, I am accepting the fact that I am not weak because I can't do it alone. I am doing it concurrently or collectively with my partner, right? So I depend on my husband for certain things in life, and I know that from feeling stable in those, I will be able to work forward independently successfully. Another thing that codependency therapy and models intersects with is a topic of like compassion fatigue, which is, I talked about, I am a person who lives with CPTSD. It is a chronic thing at the moment. It has been a chronic thing for a while, being completely candid about. It's wearing on me internally as an individual. It's exhausting, right? It's exhausting to even admit it and talk about it out loud because I feel like I'm constantly accepting it all the time. I'm constantly making room for this thing that is uncomfortable. But there is a fatigue that can come not only from myself, but the people who care about me as well. So my partner who feels compassion and empathy and wants the best for me and wants to see me happy, healthy, successful, all of these positive things, right? Things that you put in this positive aspect of love. He wants all those things for me, and he wants them to be for me independently. But there comes this guesswork of trying to set somebody up for, success and to have all of those positive things versus them not always being the right things and not being able to have it communicated that these are the benefits of what should be done, or this is how long these things need to be done, or these things are not working, please stop doing them. So it's almost like there's this constant struggle to identify how do you get the person that you love into this healthy, stable place, and why can't it happen faster? And that builds to this compassion fatigue of it's loving someone who is chronically struggling. It wears on you in a way. Codependency therapy helps to identify in these example A or situation A, we know that these types of things typically work in them. Or you see a situation where you want to see your loved one push through a difficult situation. You can see that they're stuck. We can identify that certain situations just need to play out naturally, and there's nothing that can really be done other than just accepting that it is just where they're at right now, and it's not where it will stay, but it also doesn't mean that it doesn't suck in this moment. And there are other things that you're able to identify and pinpoint as this is what should be done in these situations that have a history of being frustrating versus we're going to keep doing the same thing and be burnt out by it, which we're trying to avoid. The codependency sort of creates these clear sets of boundaries of, I know what to ask for in these certain situations, and it also allows for knowing the expectations of how I potentially am going to lean on somebody else for help or empathy or an ear to listen to, or however we sort of define that in our home. And I think I'm going to just close on a 3. I like a good prime number. But codependency therapy also intersects with trust dynamics. So the first 2 things I talked about with a dependency paradox and compassion fatigue, but these trust dynamics are really what's leaned into, because we've talked about, we identify these boundaries and these expectations, and we know that we are actively vocalizing what has not worked in the past and what can be done better in the future, as well as what does work in the past and how to either improve that or how do we sustain maintaining that good aspect. And a lot of that doesn't come from just this implicit trust. So with somebody with mental health issue where I'm constantly not knowing if I can trust my own self, there's this aspect of reframing and constantly being of the mindset of, I need to put my own stuff on hold. I know that Caleb's going to come home. There's not going to be an accident after work. There's all of these things where, I'm afraid that he's going to just disappear one day unexpectedly, or did I lock the house up when we left? Or is something going to happen where I feel out of control in the car? Or something where I am going to be put in a situation where I know that my reaction is to feel like impending doom is going to happen, but I also know that I have this emotional control source that's somewhat near me, and I'm picking up on these cues that everything is okay. I need to be able to trust those cues from the person who I implicitly love and trust the most, and that is the starting place of rebuilding my own distrust of the self, right? Your inner saboteur can take a break while you listen or pick up cues from someone that you trust. So then the question might be, well, what does this look like in day-to-day life? Give 2, maybe 3. We'll do a prime 3 example of what this looks like. And one big one is every day I make a point to write down what I'm grateful for from my husband. And to follow up to that, I specifically audibly say the phrase, I love you, in regards to some sort of positive thing. And why that is because for a period of time that has maybe been a little bit uncomfortable, the phrase I love you has sort of caught on to also mean something to me of talking about not trusting myself and not, having a lack of sense of worth. I love you is sort of become this currency of, I feel less than, I feel small. I'm going to say I love you as a point of, here's my currency. Do you return this? Am I worth something? Am I a worthy individual? This is my communication on expressing that feeling. And that's not what I want that phrase to mean, right? So love is complex, and it interweaves in all kinds of different ways, and it means all kinds of different things. And it's a big feeling, right? It's one of those big emotions, a big E emotion. And I want to reclaim some of that to mean what I poetically and romantically subscribe to that. So the times that I say it and I feel that small feeling, I don't want that usage to exceed the number of times where I say it and have that big emotion. And that big emotion is, by not verbally expressing it, it makes it seem like these are fewer and far between, when that's not actually the case, right? So I feel love when I see that stupid little smirk that comes out of my husband's face. Or when he's wearing mismatching socks. Or he does those little things, like it's just the way he holds himself in his hands sometimes. It's like this little quirky thing that like, it's signature Caleb. It's one of those things, I love him. Or when he's doing something in the kitchen, or he's adding something to when he's cooking, I love him then. I love him all the time. But the point is those little moments all the time. They're very present, they're always there. It's not just when we are engaging in certain things like adventuring or traveling or having intimate moments together. It's not just limited to those specific things. It's all the time in all of these different kind of ways. And to audibly say it puts this positive forefront spin on putting to bed those feelings of feeling less than and worthless in comparison to my husband. And then something similar in an evolution of how mental health can deteriorate the way you perceive yourself is that it has been many years since I have actively and consciously looked in the mirror. I don't take photos as often as I used to, and even the photos that we have taken together in the history of being together, I had sort of tuck those away over time with cleaning or rearranging the house, and I have pulled those back out, and in this like codependency mindfulness of who are the people you're picking up your social cues from, who do you trust, who do you love, etc., with these positive things of how to step out from being stuck. These photos highlight a history of, I am not less than. Look at this person who has navigated the world with me who has built a life collectively with me, who has adventured to some fun places, but whether they are short distances or long distances from where we've lived. And these photos in the past have been things that I've looked at, and they have reminded me not so much of that particular caption moment, but that has reminded me of what happened a week prior to that moment, or where I was at in a phase of life at that time. And did I feel sad? Did I feel not my best? Did I look and know that I was struggling around this time of particular year? And by putting those photos away, it was sort of giving the allowance that those are the things that I should be thinking of, but by pulling them back out and knowing that I have somebody who I can depend on, reminded of that visually all the time, it's sort of given me a new lease on the aspect of I don't have to look at myself and think, oh, you look sad, or you are constantly stuck, or you are always struggling. And then a third, which is a really silly thing, is I constantly tell our pets that I love them, and it's another active, positive way of just feeling sort of good about myself. And it's, I tell the dogs, oh, do you feel love? And they get all excited. It makes me feel good. And that's sort of like a very simple, little tiny thing that's not really part of a codependent therapy model, but they are active members of our family. And so that's just like a small little how this gets folded into my life. But I want to end by saying that codependency therapy is not a be-all end-all fix, right? So it has its certain place in my life amongst other things, and it will have different application, whether it's comprehensive or even scaled back in other people's lives. It will look differently to them. They may have an intimate partner and kids. They may just have kids. They may have one kid and multiple intimate partners. This will look different to other people, and it will go concurrent with other things like CBD or MDMA or gardening therapy, or going to the gym and exercising for physical betterment and moving those hormones around your body and your bloodstream, or exploring the geographic cure to life, or different areas of talk therapy or hypnotherapy or light therapy, or whatever the formula is that you can weave this into. This is codependent therapy as just one model for independence, and it goes hand in hand with other building blocks. So it's just one tool of many. And I think that we're seeing on a much larger scale how our country has this very embedded culture of you have to be independent, you have to be fully formed, devoid of needing from any other person. and how that's sort of blowing up a little bit right now in how we are raised and how we associate these negative things with the idea of codependence. Codependence is not an unhealthy thing. In fact, it's a very natural and humanistic thing to instinctually want and need. You want to be accepted and understood, and you want to feel socially involved with a certain defined group of people or persons. I don't know. I was almost about to really make a solid point, and then I used the wrong plural word there. But we want to be around people that we trust, and that helps us feel safe to know how we can navigate independently of our own in the world among them. And I will just sort of end this with the idea of saying, I always think about the Latin phrase e pluribus unum, which means out of many one. And I think that's a good way to end this, as codependent therapy allows you to be one stronger individual that has come out of needing and accepted the fact that you will depend on other people. So I think that's where I'm gonna end. Let me know what you guys think of it. Has any of this shifted your change of mind? Do you have any other questions about it that I could maybe share with you in a more general sense of what it is? Has it worked for you? Let me know. It's always great to see how other people are learning and growing. And with that being said, remember to grow from where you are, and I'll share more with you soon. Tschüss.